Hey guys, what's going on? RetroGamer here, and welcome back to another review featuring the Famicom Disk System. So, the Famicom Disk System, released in 1986, the Famicom Disk System hit the shelves, and it was released for about $155, $160. I'll put the exact number on screen. But yeah, that's about the price it was in the market. And this was an add-on for the Famicom. And the Famicom Disk System played games using like proprietary 3-inch floppy disks. So they weren't the standard 3.5, but they were 3-inch floppies, and they were called disc cards, and then you could buy them at stores called Quick Discs. And it was a really interesting idea, and it worked really well. So in Japan, this was only released in Japan, and in Japan, you could buy the games, or you could go to a kiosk and rewrite the games, because these were rewritable, for a fee of like 500 yen, which back then was like $3.25, compared to buying a new game, which was like 2,600 yen, which is like $17 back then. So it was a really cheap way to get a new game. Now, that meant you had to rewrite your old game, whether it was The Legend of Zelda, or Baseball, or Mario Brothers 2. You had to rewrite it depending on the game that you got. Some games could hold one game on each side. Most games you had to use two sides, like The Legend of Zelda. But it was a really cool idea, and even though the Famicom Disk System didn't sell terribly many units, like 4.4 million, it did really well, and it wasn't discontinued until 2004. Yeah, this was released in 86 and it wasn't discontinued until 2004. That's crazy. And so, in that time that it was alive, Nintendo would let you mail in your disc system, because a lot of times these disc systems break with the belts. I've been through many belts from my handmade belts, and they would fix it and then send it back to you. And that was the only way you could get these fixed, because no one sold belts back then. But nowadays, we have people selling belts all the time. So, with all that out of the way, let's take a look at the features, and we'll talk a little bit more about the Famicom Disk System. So here's the front. I really do like the front. It says Nintendo Family Computer Disk System. This is the little eject button when a disc is in there. And then you got the sides. And something that was cool too is if you look up here, there's a little latch. You open this up, and it takes C-cell batteries. You can use wall power, but you can also use 6 C-cell batteries. And this was most likely because in Japan, there aren't very many wall sockets. So one was being occupied by the TV, and the other was probably being occupied by the Famicom. So there was nothing to plug it into. And these, playing the Famicom Disk System every day, lasts like 5 months. It has a really long lifespan for batteries, so it's a pretty good investment. I'm glad I bought it. The AC adapter and the RAM adapter input. So you had to have a little cartridge that plugged into the Famicom, and then plug that into the back so that you could power this up. And here is the little RAM adapter. And then it's shaped like a cartridge, and you just plug that into the back, and then you're ready to go. So the games, as I said, were on proprietary 3-inch floppy disks. They called them like disc cards. And then back in Japan, you could buy these like disc cards. You could buy quick discs. And some people found out how to pirate stuff, and it was not really that bad. But the piracy started to happen, and they tried to prevent this by doing something with the cards. Let me grab a card here. Let's see here. So here's what a standard card looks like. Super Mario Brothers 2, and then Pro Wrestling. So this is one that could hold a game on each side because it was small enough. Each side holds 58 KB, I believe, making a total of like 112 KB, 118. So they weren't terribly big, but they held some really good games. So the piracy issue they tried to combat, the I and the N right here, when you put it into the disk system, it latches onto those to make sure that it's a real game. But people found a way to maybe make notches or bypass it altogether to where they could write their own games on there. That was pretty smart of them, not gonna lie. There were so many good games. There weren't a whole lot of games released for the Famicom Disk System. I believe there were only 95. It's a small library, but it was amazing. It held so many good games. I'm gonna grab some games here. So it had, let me see. So here's some games. I had Metroid, the original Metroid, so you could save your game in Metroid. This is my copy of The Legend of Zelda. it doesn't show Legend of Zelda on the sticker, but that's something you have to take into consideration with the Famicom disc system, because a lot of games were rewritten, and I'm glad I got Legend of Zelda on there. F1 Race, there was Golf Japan Course, there were then your standard, sports games, volleyball, and then there was Legend of Zelda 2, there was, Kid Icarus, and Super Mario Bros., the real Mario 2, Mario All Night Nippon. There were just so many good games on the disc system, even though there weren't terribly many games, but a lot of them you can find on the NES, but the feature of saving was taken out, just like Castlevania, Metroid, Kid Icarus. All those games now had a feature where you could save. On the NES, it was just long passwords, and so it was a really cool option. But I actually want to show you how the disc system boots up. So I'm going to grab my Famicom, and we're going to plug this thing in. Excuse the unprofessionalism. Plug that in. Plug my RF in. Let me get the RAM adapter. Plug this in. I'm right next to a TV, so this will work out great. Come on. There we go. Okay, so this is what it looks like when it's like all stacked up. I think it's really cool how it looks. We're going to turn the TV on. Alright. I'm going to turn up the volume because the boot up system is really nice. Alright. So, I'm going to move it over here. Alright, let's turn it on. That's just so iconic. And the games are really easy to put in. Just grab any game. We're just going to put this game right here. Looking at the disc system, you put it inside A first. Go back to the disc system. To TV. Excuse the background noise, I live right next to a train. And Nintendo Family Computer. And the music also is going to sound different on the disc system because it took advantage of an extra channel. And then you just gotta wait for it to load. The loading times weren't bad for a time, but they can be a little bit long, especially when you're starting at Metroid. It can be a little bit long. It's probably going to be a while. I don't want to drag this out. B-side. So then, you'd flip it over when it's ready. That's saying B-side. Silence is a little awkward. Then after waiting, your game would start up. So loading times are probably like, I don't know, like 20 seconds maybe. But then you were ready to play some Metroid, and you were able to save and everything. And that was such a cool thing back in the day. And it was really popular, especially the kiosk was something that was really popular because getting a new game for only like 500 yen was a really nice option compared to buying a new game for 2,600 yen. So it was a really nice feature, and keeping it alive for so long was absolutely amazing. They were able to keep it alive till 2004. But do I recommend this? That's something really tough because these disc systems are very unreliable. You never know when they're going to break down. The belts are always the first thing to go out. I homemade my own belt that I looked online because I'm in Japan right now, so I went to Daiso and made my own belt, and I'm surprised this one's still working because all my other belts are broken. But you never know when it's going to break, so you need to buy extra belts on eBay or Amazon. I'll link those in the description. But it's really up to you whether or not you want to invest. They are kind of expensive nowadays, and it's just something that you really have to decide for yourself. There are a lot of good games, but yet you could buy these games on the NES as well. The only upside is with this, you can save certain games. There's better sound in some games. And you do get some other exclusives, and you can play, you know, Mario 2, Doki Doki Panic, Metroid, Zelda. And it's something you just gotta really think for yourself. But if you were to ask me, I'd say go for it if your budget allows, because it is a really cool piece of hardware. And I just love the idea of it. And if you want to go for it, then, hey, I'd say go for it. So guys, from RetroGamer, if you like a video, please like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you guys back here with another review. See you guys then.